All right, it's 9 o'clock my time. We had an appointment at 9 o'clock.
Here we are.
Here we are. And I started that way specifically because the only way we got introduced was I had asked Diana Kokoska a couple weeks ago, who else should I have on these Zooms? I've got my list of people in relationships, but who else? And she honestly only gave me one set of people. It was you and Dan.
Oh, that's
and she
nice.
knows a lot of people, but she said, you've got to get them. So thank you for taking my call and agreeing to be on here.
Well, I'm excited for today. This is a whole new crowd of faces for me to get to see. It's outside of clearly our region, and I love making connections in different areas because I'll get to learn from you guys today, you know, what's going on where you're at.
Sure. And you did already say it, but let's plug it again. Where are you? So if we do have referrals that are going to Missouri, we know where to go.
I am in Springfield, Missouri. So I am Southwest Missouri, which is Springfield, Branson area.
Okay. Branson, I guess we probably all would kind of know.
Probably so. It's like the, you know,
Las Vegas of Missouri.
Not really, not even that cool. It's like where shows go to die, I think. No, I'm kidding. It's
well, you get some really good shows. My grandma just passed, and I grew up in Vegas. She loved entertainment, and she loved Branson from the beginning.
So Branson is really cool, and it also there are a lot of good shows, and there's an amusement park there that's Silver Dollar City, which is like set in old time America, which is very cool. And then we also service Table Rock Lake, which is a lake that they are very careful of making sure that, you know, it's not there are not any signs up there, you know what I mean? Like, it's all very natural. It's all very beautiful. The water is very clean. So I actually stayed at the lake last night and drove back to Springfield this morning to come back to work. So
beautiful.
Yep.
Okay. So now we know where you are. Tell us if you wouldn't mind, the team structure, how big it is, what you closed in 2019.
So we're in Springfield, Missouri. I am the CEO of Holt Homes Group. So Dan Holt was the founder of our company, and team began about 12 years ago. I've been on the team for seven and a half years. Last year we closed 482 units. Our team is a team of 18 people. The interesting part about our team is that we are very admin heavy and production light. So when I talk about 482 units, we've really got 6 people that are in production. So each of our...
Just say it again. I already know because you told me last week, but I think everybody else probably would have the same visceral reaction I had if they get that. 482 units with 6 people.
That's exactly right.
In production.
In production. So, you know, we're averaging really high numbers for our agents. And the reason we're able to do that is because we have an incredible staff. So we have, out of the remaining 12, we've got a director of ops that has all of the admins report to her. So the listing coordinators, transaction coordinators, our marketing person, everybody.
Would you break down how many you have in each of those? Yep. Again, it's such a different model, obviously highly successful, and I think tough to get our heads around. Out of 12, I mean, still 12 people for 482 units. You're talking to a whole lot of people here in San Diego who really, truly are going to have a challenge fathoming that. We have market centers that don't close that many units.
Well, I think it's interesting. You know, I think when we built this, part of the reason we're so successful is that we have really looked at being specialists. So we're not generalists. So we are very much buy side or we are list side. So what we know from Gary Keller is when you narrow the focus, number one, you get to mastery sooner if you ever really achieve mastery. Yep. And when your focus is so narrow, what happens is you have exponential opportunity. So when we talk about how we're set up, so I've got Monica. Monica Keltz is my director of ops, and normally she shares an office with me, but she's not in today. So Monica is in charge of Amanda, who is the TC on the buy side. So Amanda will handle somewhere around 225 files on the buy side this year. So 225 to 250, somewhere in there. Now, Amanda handles everything for the agent once the home is under contract, with the exception of negotiations. our agents still negotiate the repair inspection or the inspection request. The reason being is we all kind of know that's when it gets a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's when your fall through happens. So we consider that an agent conversation, so the agent still handles that. On the listing side, so we are listing heavy. So buy side, we do a great job, right? We're going to close 225, 250 units, and that's really still only 40% of our business. 60% of our business comes from the listing side. So Monica is also in charge of 2 list side listing, I guess, transaction coordinators. I don't know what you really call them. She would know, but they handle the file start to finish. So from the time a listing goes live, that admin handles the file until closing. So those people aren't meeting multiple people on our team. Once they're connected with the admin, that's their admin for the whole process.
Great.
And then we've got, we do have a marketing person that I don't count in that 18. That's somebody that is just contract labor. So we send her ideas, she does our graphics, you know, makes our posts, those types of things. We have 2 virtual assistants that help with the background.
Are they in the US or overseas?
In the US. So one of them is within an hour from us. She lives very close to us. So she can occasionally come into the office if we're doing something special. And then the other one actually started as my EA when I was the buyer agent for our team. And she moved with her husband to St. Louis. And it was just a really natural fit for her to keep the job. She knew all of the ins and outs of our team. So she's in St. Louis about 3.5 hours from us.
Great. Okay.
And then, so that's really our ops team. So they're the strong backbone. Now the remaining people we have in lead generation. So I have a director of lead gen who her name is Ashton. And then she has 2 inside sales agents. So they're dialing for leads. Our primary source of business is still for sale by owners, expireds, and our database.
Is it currently also now in the Corona time?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's interesting, and I know I may be going out of order, but when we talk about lead generation,
there's no order. We're casual here.
I see Judy Johns, and I just have to say, I love you, Judy Johns.
It's the Judy Johns fan club, as it should be.
It is. Every place should be a Judy Johns fan club. So when I look at lead generation, so our team in COVID and everything that's happened, before that, everybody talks about speed to lead, right? Like we've got to get to the lead fast. The interesting dynamic of what's happened over the last few weeks or 6 weeks is that it's not just speed to lead on the response time, it's actually speed to lead on getting in front of the person. So the benefit of where we're at now with Zoom calls is you have speed to lead of the lead comes in and I'm going to capture it and I'm going to call them. The interesting piece now is though, I can now do a Zoom call and do a buyer consult or a listing presentation almost on demand. So what we're finding is our set to met ratio on the listing side right now is 97%.
Wow.
On the buy side, it is 100% set to met.
Wow.
Now we always do have pretty strong numbers. They run a tight ship in that department as far as pre-qualing the appointments. It's just interesting though, because in these challenging times, part of what we're seeing is some things are better.
Sure, and we're hopefully going to keep those better pieces after we're released.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I've got 3 people that are outbound dialing, and then we also have a lead coordinator that's in there. So the lead coordinator is somebody, you know, that is making sure that the dial sessions are ready the night before, so that the inside sales agents, they're going to come in and they can just get to work. She's also making sure that we're capturing all lead information and getting them into all auto plans, and they get the correct tag in our database.
And what are you using for your database? Gotta love that question.
Brevity.
Okay. Do you have a command?
We will go to command as soon as command is ready for large teams. So we are in there, we are playing with it, we are adding stuff and we're testing it out. And there's no way for it to support what we're doing now. And it 100% will at some point support it. So we will make the switch when it's ready for us.
Yeah, it's a big ship to move, right? So 482 last year. Coming into 2020, what was the team goal?
So the team goal, Dan, the founder of the company, says that you cannot you can't increase your goal till you actually hit it. So our goal last year was 500 units, and we didn't get there.
Okay.
So our goal this year is 500 units.
Okay. And I know, please don't judge me. You don't know me yet. So what is it now? Did it change because of COVID?
Nope.
Okay, good.
So we have not adjusted goal. We have adjusted activities. So we were having our best first quarter ever. When Dan brought me in as his business partner, I'm the detail person and he's the vision person. So when he brought me in, we've spent a year and a half cleaning up P&Ls and getting profitable and all these things. And so we last year ended at 39.2% profitable. And so we were like, okay,
that's what we should be giving awards on, by the way.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
So we've made a lot of adjustments to get there. And so then we start Q1, which we normally have to dig ourselves out of on profitability. And it's great. We're profitable in January, not by much, but we're profitable in January. And we're having the best first quarter ever. And then this hits. So we had the conversation, do we adjust goal? You know, we don't want our people to feel like they're losing every day. That's not fun either. And so there's this fine line between, I'm not going to adjust goal and I'm not going to kill my people either. You know, there has to be a win. It's challenging enough as it is for without somebody having to come to work every day and be down because they're not on track. So what we did is we just kind of shifted what the monthly were, you know, what the monthly goals were, and not by much. I mean, just a very little amount to make it feel like a win. It was still a stretch. It was still hard, but because we were ahead in Q1 and because we believe we'll have a really strong rest of Q2, we're going to be able to absorb it. So we are on track to have 500 closings this year.
So one of the things you told me last week, and it was surprising. I kind of knew a little bit of your story, but the numbers in March and April surprised me. So what did you open and close, penned and close in March and April?
So in March, we put 40 properties under contract and we closed, I think I'm looking at my board. In March, we closed 48 because we had a huge February.
Sure.
So the interesting thing was that they didn't fall through. We were anticipating like this massive fall through and it hasn't yet happened. And I know that potentially can still be coming. So then again, in April, we put 40 under contract and we closed 37.
That's really impressive.
Well, thank you. And we've got 48 on the books for May. And so last year, part of my plan with working with Dan was we were always a little out of whack on fall through. So we were anywhere from 13 to 14% fall through. And national average, I believe, is 10%. And so this year we made some adjustments on how are we going to button this up. And I'm walking out of Q1 and we're at 6% fall through. And I'm like, we've done it. And then again, this hits and I'm like, oh no.
Don't get too comfortable.
Right. So we went through and we are bulletproofing every transaction. Dan and I now both have to sign off on it. If an agent has a mutual release, we both have to have a conversation with the agent on how do we save it. Because what we found is if they come to me and I'm having a hard day, I maybe don't have the energy to help them.
That's
and maybe Dan does. And so then what happens if Dan maybe is having a hard day and I also have to sign off on it, we can both do some creative thinking to keep these deals together. So I looked this morning and we're at 8% fall through. So we have had a few fall through and they are a direct correlation of COVID-19. One was somebody lost their job. One was, the government loan requirements changed. It was initially a 640 credit score and it jumped up to 700 and they no longer qualified. Right. And so we've made some adjustments on how often we're checking those pre-approval letters, how often we're checking employment, the conversations that we're willing to have. And so those adjustments seem to be working. And the people that have fallen through, we're saying we're here when you're ready. What can we do to help? How do we keep them in our world? Because it's disappointing for them too. They've lost their house, the house of their dreams. And so we're being really conscientious of not making them feel bad, not adding to the disappointment, and seeing how we get to help them, when they're ready to buy again.
Yeah. Okay, so let's shift a gear and go backwards a little bit to your ISAs. You only have 2 inside salespeople?
We have 3. We have a lead one, and then the 2 that help her, and then a lead coordinator, but the lead coordinator is not dialing.
Okay. So, and how many of your appointments are they responsible for, percentage-wise?
80%. We provide 80% of our leads for our team.
Okay. So to those 6 people in production, 80% of it is coming through the marketing lead generation efforts of the team.
That's correct.
And are your 6 salespeople required to lead generate in any way?
So now they are. Ahead of this, we really looked at our salespeople as their top 20% activities were being in the field, conversion, which is the hardest skill set, and getting people to put pen to paper. So they were more lead nurturers. We were filling their bucket, and they were then nurturing them until they were ready to do something. And so at that point, they were still required to do certain number of open houses, and they were required to add so many people to the database when they joined our team, and then adding people per month. And we really didn't necessarily want them bogged down in lead generation. And I know that that's different. But I'm in Gary's group, and he talks about being the owner of the lead, right? If we own the lead and we control the leads, people stay longer, and they're in their energy zone, right? They get to do what they love to do. So now with the changes, yes, they have been required to make some adjustments. So in the short term, we went to 20 contacts a day. We followed BOLD, and those were the minimum standards. And we were doing care calls with our database. And if they ran through, the people that they knew, they were able to call cold leads that we have, kind of a pool of leads, or they were able to circle prospect a neighborhood that had some success. So we are getting them comfortable with this, and we believe this may be the new normal, that we have to hit so many contacts for this period of time.
Sure. And I mean, massaging the database anyway, it's a good thing to do at this point, right?
It's a great thing to do, and I think it's going to make them stronger agents. In the past, we did it one way because it really worked that way, and now we're making adjustments based on now what's really working, and this is part of it, and it is strengthening their relationships with the client. I think it also is making them appreciate the lead generation team a little bit more. So it's funny when we talk about it, we're all in right now. Like I will say we are stronger now as a group and as a team than we've ever been.
So what does that look like? What is your daily communication with the team, that connectivity? What does it look like now since everybody's dispersed?
So we sent production home first. So our production people were the first ones ahead of the stay-at-home order in Springfield. We sent them home 10 days before we had a stay-at-home order because they are in and out of people's homes. And the risk of bringing it into the office, and we're just trying to eliminate that. And then the next week, admin went home. And so they went home and they got set up. So by the time we had the stay-at-home order in place in Springfield, we were up and running while everybody else was figuring out how to connect to Wi-Fi at their house. And so, so now what it looks like, during that time when we were all home, and we are starting to reopen in Springfield, so we're starting to come back. We had to be really intentional. That was probably the hardest piece of this. Was we're used to being in and out of each other's offices and in and out of each other's conversations. And when somebody's having a hard day, I have every opportunity to make a micro correction, right? Like we're just going to do a little correction on attitude or energy or whatever it might be. Well, we weren't together. There was no adjustment. And somebody I thought was fine, maybe wasn't fine. And so initially we started we were very, we had a lot of accountability within departments and certain times that there were going to be calls and check-ins. And then we really ended up moving to having our Zoom up all day long. So we can see each other, we can celebrate one another. So, I can see in the comments when somebody sets an appointment, and I could jump in and unmute myself and celebrate with them. And then you can also, though, kind of see where that like as people are, kind of starting to slump over or maybe not dialing as much, there's the potential then that it creates the conversation.
That's interesting. I don't think you might have said that last week, but I didn't really pick up on that. So, and you have a lot of parents also, right? There's a lot of kids in this group.
Yes.
That's interesting to have Zoom open all the time. I've seen
So,
some things I don't want to ever see again.
agreed. You know, and every once in a while I do pant checks and like, who's not wearing pants? Like, I need everybody to stand up. If you're not wearing pants, don't stand up, but I'm gonna know you're not wearing pants. But we were, you know, it was one of those things where we did talk about last week. Some of the people were really struggling with the anxiety of all of the changes because it happened like a light switch, and they went from working with me to work, or our team, and to being home, and there's this anxiety that's there. And so what we found was the faster we could get people into production during the day, those dollar producing activities, the anxiety went down. When production is high, anxiety is low. So we were like, we've got to get them into it as quickly as we can. And some of that was by having this Zoom call up, making sure people were dressed, making sure that they were showered, that they had makeup on and all those other things. And I'm happy to see their kids in the background. I love that. You know, I get to chat with them and be excited to see them. And at the same time, we're bringing that energy level up and able then to see maybe if somebody needs some additional support.
Sure. Sure. So what's been the toughest part of this massive pivot?
I think it was the number of personalities that you're dealing with and you're not with them every day. I think, you know, what I just described, that's the backside of what happened and how we were able to adjust. Those first few weeks, there was a lot of uncertainty, the first, I'd say 10 days. And I didn't know how to fix it. I think that was the thing where I was like, I'm normally really good about being in person with people, making adjustments, talking to them. And some of it was out of sight, out of mind. I was like, well, I'm good. You know, my kids are good. My kids are at an easy age to homeschool. So I maybe didn't understand the challenges that were there for other people. And so by bringing up that Zoom call all day and being able to see people, I was micromanaging. You know, I don't care if they go to, close it out for lunch, or you want to go play with your kids for 10 minutes. I don't necessarily care about that. But that was the way to have the reminder of, hey, I've got 18 people that are counting on me to show up in a certain way and to check in on them.
And see you can't have empathy if you don't know what they're dealing with, right?
You can't. You live in my perspective is my reality. And I will tell you, I really enjoyed the first 2 weeks home with my kids. So, and not everybody does. And not everybody, I also knew my emergency plan for the team. I knew what we were doing on the backside to make sure that we never lost an employee.
Did the team know that? Did you immediately tell them that they were safe and this is why?
I immediately said that they were safe and here's why. The thing I didn't do though was then consistently communicate that. So we talk about that we have wins and we have learnings, right? We're not going to say they're a loss, but they're learnings. I took too long to explain the thought process behind where we were at. And I did have an emergency plan. If things would have gotten consistently worse, at some point that would have had to happen. But we did what's called a PACE plan. We have our primary plan, we have our alternate plan, we have our contingency plan, and we have like the emergency plan, which is like I'm ejecting them out.
Would you go back through that? Because I love the PACE plan and I don't think everybody here knows what that is.
So the PACE plan, the P is for your primary plan. So how you were operating January through end of February, that was your primary plan. That's your plan of action. It's your basis on how you're hiring, how you're spending, what your numbers are. The alternate plans started probably for most of you as this got more serious and there were stay-at-home orders. So the alternate plan was we were making adjustments to that primary plan and we weren't fully aware of how fast it was going to play out. And then the contingency plan is if basically A and B don't work, here's what we're going to do next. And that part starts to get uncomfortable. The contingency plan is starting to get uncomfortable. The emergency plan is what would you do if you went from 72 pendings to 0? What happens then? And the reason you do a PACE plan, and Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason you do it is so that by the time you get to C and E, that plan is already in place So the emotions, even though you're still going to be emotional, the emotions aren't attached to it. You've made the decision. And for me, it looked like transaction count. If we get below this number, this is what happens. This is what we have to get rid of. These are the spending that we have to get rid of. These are the adjustments we're going to make. If it drops to this level, now we're in our emergency zone and we're operating at, honestly, skeleton staff. I mean, that's what's happening. But you have to
it allows you not to be reactionary, right?
You're proactive.
It's proactive, but it's also not an emotional decision anymore.
You've done it in advance. You're exactly right. So it takes the emotions out of it when it happens, and you don't hold on for so long that you yourself are going to lose potentially everything. You're making decisions. We're making decisions to protect everybody. And at some point there's got to still be a company for them to eventually come back to.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you for breaking
You're
that
welcome.
down. So now you're opening up a little bit, which again, I'm jealous because we are not. It looks like we'll have all of May and maybe partially June where we're still shelter in place. What are you excited? What's going to change? What are you excited to get back to? What's going to change? And what are you going to be very intentional about keeping?
So the things I'm excited about are having everybody in here. I'm also excited about not having to cook dinner and lunch and breakfast every day, and maybe I can go somewhere to eat. And I'm too nervous to go right now. So restaurants are reopening and I'm like, I'm just gonna wait and see what happens, right? I'm maybe not going, I'm not the first one in the door. I'm really excited for everybody to be back together. The things that I hope stay the same and that we will make every effort to stay the same is, number one, the sanitation efforts. I mean, those things won't go away. I mean, at some point the masks will, but the wiping down of everything ahead of and in and out of the house, I think is there's no reason not to do that. It doesn't take that much extra time. The virtual appointments. So virtual listing appointments and virtual buyer appointments, having those, number one, we're more efficient. So before, where I could maybe do 2 or 3 in a day, I could do a couple in an hour if I needed to. We're on that on-demand space where we can meet people where they're at. So I love Zoom. I mean, I don't think this is going away. I think the buyer and seller feel really comfortable in their own space. And so some of the normal objections you would get, you don't really get. They're there and they're in the comfort of their own home. And we're in an office or set up in a professional spot. And those meetings went from an hour to 30 minutes. And the rate of signing during the appointment is through the roof. Because what happens is, if I share my screen with you and I'm taking you through the listing agreement or buyer, employment package, what happens is I'm forward pacing you to sign it. I'm explaining it to you. And at the end of it, I'll just say, hey, while we're on this, why don't you go ahead and sign this? That way, if we have any technical glitches, I'm here to help you. And
nice close.
And we move on.
So do you think the appointments themselves are shorter because there's fewer objections, or why?
I think there are fewer objections, and I think it cuts down on the chatter. They're coming in, they're uncomfortable with somebody at first in the office. You know what I mean? Like, we're offering coffee, we're offering water, we're chit-chatting, they meet 2 or 3 people, people are in and out. And I think it's everybody that's participating is like, number one, they're ready, willing, and able to go right then. I mean, they're ready. And it just cuts down on all of the.
So what I heard there, you really pre-qualify well. Before you jump on a Zoom, they're ready to go. So what's that process like?
Well, and the pass is easier. So if, like, Rodney on our team sets an appointment and he's going to loop me in on the Zoom call, well, we can both be on the Zoom call. They've already talked to Rodney. They're comfortable with him.
The handoff is nice.
It is. We're both there. We appear to be, because we're business partners, right? We work together. Rodney spoke with you. Now I'm going to take over, and here's what's going to happen. So, I mean, the pre-qual process is actually pretty similar to what it was when we were doing things in person. The difference is the speed of our reaction to being able to meet with someone is much quicker. I mean, there's no drive time. We don't have to say why we're not showing them a house when we don't know if they're pre-qualified. I mean, some of that has just taken care of itself.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. As someone that was a buyer's agent for a long time, yes, that's nice.
That's awesome. And are you guys showing property? I mean, obviously probably since Monday, but have you been leaning on virtual open houses or virtual tours more?
So when we sent all the agents home that first 10 days, they went through our bulk of listings and got videos of every listing that we had, so that we had a library to provide people with. Now, what we're doing is, and we're doing virtual open houses, and I don't know that I would ever go back to a regular open house.
You said that to me and I went, whoa, let's go there for a second.
So
because we have a lot of agents who do a ton of business out of open houses. Great way to build your database, right?
and it may be different in my market. So I would suggest doing your research with where you're at. But where I'm at, an open house is anywhere from 2 to 3 hours traditionally. And, we may have 10 to 12 people come through the home. And these virtual open houses, we're able to create a lot of hype around them ahead of time. And we probably have, I'd say 50 to 60 people that are watching with us as we're doing the open house. And then that video is on our website or our Facebook page. And what happens is then they have all of this time to go back and take another look through it. And so what we're finding is we are starting to figure out how to capture those leads. So that's kind of been a new development, because at first I was like, well, maybe we're doing this and we're getting all this exposure, but are we actually getting business from it? And so we're working on tracking that now to see, and I will have better numbers probably another 30 days.
We may bring you on in another 30 days.
Okay. I'd love to come back. So though, that's been a really interesting dynamic. Plus it's not 3 to 4 hours, right? It's 30 minutes. Your capture time for a virtual open house is anywhere from 15 to 22 minutes. So when we look at it, the number of open houses that we could provide on a normal weekend in a traditional manner were very limited with the manpower and the hours and all of those things. The efficiency standpoint of doing these, we can have 4 or 5 in a day on a Saturday and 4 or 5 in a day on a Sunday. Yeah. The only thing you have to kind of plan is that you don't want 2 agents doing one at the same time. We've got to have it staggered a little bit, but we can do them every 30 minutes.
Awesome. Awesome.
And so as far as the showings, we have still been able to show, but what we've done is we first have the buyer drive past the house. We provide them with a video. And then if they are still ready, willing, and able, and they want to buy that house, at that time, we coordinate. If it's a vacant house, we can go show it. If there's a seller in the home, then we call the seller, make sure they're comfortable with it. And we just time it with when the seller is going to go to the grocery store. So we're not asking them to leave any extra time. When they're going to be gone, I ask them to leave every light on and every door and cabinet door open so that we're not touching anything. And the pushback initially was, well, I don't want to leave all my cabinet drawers open. That's not how it looks. And I'm like, but my clients at that point had seen still photos. They'd seen a video of the property. So I was like, they know what it looks like perfect. But we need to be able to look inside.
That's great. Great tips. All right. What else do you hope to carry past this time? Good things that we learned.
I think, if we were looking at the virtual stuff, I think the virtual open houses, the consults via Zoom, and then these care calls with our database. We've been more intentional with that than we've ever been. And it gives a sense of that we're not a company that's just after transaction count. We're putting people back in this place or in this space, and it's nice.
How big is your database, your Met database?
10,000.
Okay. And yet, you said the majority of the business is still FSBO expired. So what's that percentage?
So I would say our database business is probably now our top source. It kind of varies between that and for sale by owners and expired. So I would say database is probably 42, 43%. And then very near is expires and for sale by owners. That just flip-flop though. We did not do a very good job with our database at the beginning. Dan and I were both kind of like a turn and burn kind of mentality, like we're gonna click through it. And so we've had to go back and reestablish relationships with people.
When did you start that? 'Cause that's what my coach hat went on and I went, okay, this is the opportunity you have to actually have that solid foundation of the business of the database. How long ago did you start really focusing on it?
I would say we started focusing on it about 2.5 years ago. So when Dan was still, but it was before I was his business partner, we started looking at it. We were like, I don't know that we ever want the database to be necessarily more than 50%. And our reasoning behind that is because then we're not necessarily growing the database at the rate we would like to. So we're okay probably where we're at, would like it a few percentage points higher. But it was Dan. He was like, we're working so hard to bring in new business. And we've got people that really love us. So we've got to figure out a way to do both. And that was a person. You're usually, if you hit a ceiling, it's either a person or a system. Yep. And so, and for us, it was a little bit of both. We were missing a person who now is Monica, our director of ops. And we were missing the system, which is Brevity, which will eventually be Command for us. We didn't have a good system in place for the nurturing, the auto plans that kind of do some of the heavy lifting for you.
Okay. All right. So going back, 6 production people, 80% of the business is handed to them. How's your retention?
Oh, hi. I mean, yeah. Kathleen, who's on our team, she was my showing agent, my very first showing agent in 2016. She's still on the team. Derek, our listing agent, he's been here 3 years. Megan, we hired a new listing agent this year, not because we had lost one, just needed another one. So she's been here just a short period of time, and that was just a new position created. Cody on the buy side, he's been here 2 years. Jeremiah's been here a year, but those shorter numbers are just because we added the position.
Okay. Okay. And what, if you're willing, what's your financial structure with those people in production?
So people in production, we do a small base salary with a small bonus per transaction. So what I mean by that, and I can share it with you, Ashley, later in an email, and then you can share it with people that want to know it. Basically we provide everything else. So we provide the leads, we provide the admin support, and we're getting them in their 20%. And they are averaging anywhere from 85 to 90 closings per year. So when we look for production people, we do typically look outside of industry, because I am pitching the vision of the team and the opportunity within the team. I'm not having to negotiate splits with someone that is used to a certain split. So we joke, I don't know if I said this to you or I said this to anybody else. I was like, I'd rather have 20% of a watermelon or 25% of a watermelon versus 80% of a grape. Like it's that kind of mentality. Those are the people that we're after.
Yeah. And you had also shared, what's your median income in Springfield?
So median income in Springfield is $35,000. So when I went to find, Kathleen is the easiest example. She was my first hire. And she was working at a bank. I mean, she was working at a bank and she was in that $30,000 to $35,000 range. And so when I brought her on, I said, I'll have this small base salary and then your percentage. And I think I can get you to $48,000 per year, right? So I was like, I'm going to give her an increase, but I'm taking some stability away. So I've got to give some stability. I've got to have a little bit of that salary there, right? I want her to feel safe. And then what happened was that year, she sold more houses. I did wonder if her average sales price would drop, if it would be below mine or if it would be the same. It was the same. So she sold more houses than I told her she would sell. Her average sales price was higher than I told her it would be. And I think that first year she was at $62,000.
So almost double what she would have been at.
And she has progressively gone up from there, and she makes 6 figures, which in Springfield, Missouri is a big deal.
Well, and I think you told me everybody, pretty much all your 6 people are 6 figures or above.
They are. And they're doing what they love to do.
They don't have to do all the other stuff that most good salespeople hate doing.
I hate doing it. I love sales. I hate doing, I'm like, someone initial this for me. I don't know. Do we really have to fill out disclosures, like all of the boxes?
That's why you have 3 TCs.
That's right.
All right. What else should we know? This is a question I should have had ready. What's the mission of this team? And what are your values?
So the mission of our team is to provide 5-star customer service and help as many people as we can. And by help, I don't necessarily mean sell them a house. We want to have a positive impact on our community.
That's awesome. And do you have the values laid out?
Oh, somewhere. I don't really remember what those are. They're all good though. Judy would love them. She basically wrote them.
Awesome. Awesome.
No, we rewrote it, and I thought someone had posted it in my office, but maybe not. So we had one that was not very catchy. It was too long, and now there's one that's shorter and it's better. I'll send it to you. I don't remember.
All right. I'd love to see it. Love to see it. All right. What else should we know?
You know, I think if I had advice to give during this time, it would be to just show up and do the work. Whatever the work can be done, just do that. If you can't show and you can't leave your home, all you can do is build a big pipeline so that when you come out of this, that you're going to have business that's ready, willing, and they're there for you. You know, you're there for them and they're going to be there for you when you come out of this. It's hard right now, right? I mean, it is. And I'm not discounting any of that. It's hard because we're not at mastery. We've made so many changes and we're doing things so differently. And our muscles aren't used to the way we're doing it yet. We did it a different way for a really long time. So be kind to yourself. I would be kind to others and show up and do what you can. Get your dollar producing activities out of the way first thing in the morning and you will feel better the rest of the day. And so if you're like, I don't know what to do, just start calling people. You don't have to ask for business, just call them, just check in on them, see how they're doing.
Linda, hang on just a second. Linda, can you mute, hon?
She did.
All right, thanks.
So, I mean, I think that would be the advice. Just do it. You know, I said the other day to our team, I said, we need less thinkers, more doers, right? Just go do it. Whatever it takes. If you want your business to thrive and you want your business to be better than it was before this started, you're going to have to do the things that nobody else wants to do. And you're going to have to spend the time that nobody else wants to spend.
Are you seeing the same thing we are, where a good half of the realtor population is just sitting on the sidelines?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're viewing it as a staycation, I think. I don't know exactly what it is, but they're almost, I think sometimes there's so much information that you can be paralyzed by it. You don't know where to look, you don't know where to think. I would say, other piece of that advice, be careful who you listen to.
Oh boy.
Be careful who you let in your head. Limit your social media, limit the news, go out and be productive. I'm telling you, the more productive you are, the less anxious you are.
Yeah, that's great, great, great advice. So what can we do for you? And as I'm asking that question, anybody who's been on here routinely, you know that's one of my last questions. So if you have questions as an audience, please put them in the chat box or chime in.
Oh, I'm just thankful to be on here. This is my favorite thing. I love teaching, right? So I'm not an individual MAPS coach. I have a group program, and it's legitimately where I get the majority of my energy. It's my favorite thing. So things like this give me energy.
I actually didn't know that. I hate to say that, but I was a MAPS coach, a one-on-one coach till last month. What program are you running?
So I rewrote it last year. I launched and it was Level Up, and it was building a team within a team. And now we've relaunched under Mastering Buyers 2.0, and I co-coach it with Sarah Detmore from the Loken Group.
Great.
And it's all things buy side. So when I was our buyer's agent, I ran the buyer division, and we were closing 225 units a year with myself and 2 showing agents. So it's basically scripts for the buy side, lead gen for the buy side, admin support for buy side. So the program is all buy side focused.
Awesome. Okay.
Judy asked, who's my favorite sports team? Chiefs, baby. Chiefs.
Yes. It's sad we may not actually have a season.
I can't even. I miss sports.
Yeah. I just read somebody's Facebook post this morning. It said her husband has rewatched the 1983 World Series like 281 times since we've been in.
I am pretty sure that I have rewatched the Chiefs Super Bowl victory about 5 times because I have an 8-year-old boy who is 100% certain that he's going to play in the NFL one day. Awesome. I mean, that's his one mission in life. So.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions? It's your last chance for this session. Nada? Nada? All right. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming on with us today. And of course, we have any referrals coming to Springfield or the larger Branson area, we'll make sure we get them to you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. You're doing great stuff here. It's nice to have good information that people can count on during this time. So it's a good thing that you're allowing people to get plugged in a really big way.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, Brian has a question.
Yes, I was wondering, so like the way that you have it set up, where it's seemingly more administrative heavy, I think it's brilliant at the end of the day. But like, what do you do with leads and stuff that come in? Do you rotate them, or is that you just specifically have it? How does that work for you guys?
That's a great question. So when the lead comes in, whether it comes in over the phone or email, typically the ISA, the inside sales agent, is going to do some pre-qualification. They're going to figure out motivation. They're going to figure out timeline, those types of things. And then they're going to try to match it with the agent's, number one, their personality, who they think would be the best fit. So we have listing agents and we have buyer agents. So a buyer agent would never go on a listing appointment. And then they're going to go based on, you know, buy side or list side, personality of the agent, and then availability. So part of the reason that we have longevity on our team is that we are very conscientious of our agent schedules. So we really try to give them some nights and some weekend days off. And so the rest of those appointments would be filled in based on availability. And we try to make it fair. You know, we try to make sure that everybody has a pretty equal number of appointments. But it is, if they don't have availability, they can sometimes lose out on that.
Oh, yeah, it's really like when you're building a team, two things for me are an automatic no. If the first question is what are the splits, or the second question is how many leads are you giving me, it's like, have you ever had a candidate, took them on? If they answer that question that way, it just seems to me like that's always a no when I hear it.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because we've not really interviewed people that have been agents before. The commission split question doesn't typically come up to me,
Right.
and the lead doesn't come up to me because they don't know. They don't know what they don't know ahead of joining our team. So, you know, their questions are typically how much money I can make. Can I make as much as you want? You can sell more houses, or you can increase your average sales price.
That's awesome.
One of the things Michael Barrow said, great call, interesting to see the different team structure. What an amazing time to look at our team structures now because of the people who are being downsized from other industries. It's a great talent grab right now, and it may be a great time to scrap the old structure and start something new.
Yep.
And it's interesting. I'm going to guess that the reason you're at 39.2% profitability is because you have the cost control in there.
Our cost of sale is right on point. We're very conscientious on dollars that we're spending, as far as, you know, I think Ben Kinney is the one that says that, you know, you're either spending money for your ego, the client's ego, or you actually need to spend the money. And you kind of need to look at that. And, you know, we've gotten a lot of that in alignment to make sure that we're cutting costs where we can. And at the same time, we're still reinvesting in our business to make it better.
Do you know what your lead gen budget is as far as a dollar percentage?
It is 8.9%.
Okay. You've got a little room. You spend
A little room. But I'm always like, I like to be a little under. I like to get a better ROI. So I'm like.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very, very, very much for being here. And congratulations on at least, it sounds like, phase 1 of your release.
Thank you. I will keep you posted. We may be back home next week. Who knows?
I hope not. That's the one prayer I keep saying right now is, as these, you know, restrictions get relaxed, gosh, let's not see a spike. Let's just,
I know. Me too.
Be safe.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Thanks,
You too.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.